Good and Chodesh Rabbi Isai. We're holding 15 lines from the bottom of Daf Memvav with Beis. Wow, what a daf, what a daf. If you have a lung that dried out, one part of it dried out, it's treifa. Vikama. How do you know what dried out means? 15 lines from the bottom of Daf Memvav with Beis. You do the fingernail test. You give it a little kvetch with your fingernail, and you see if it starts falling apart. The problem is that Rava seems like he's going with a das yochid. Kiman kirib yosi ben Meshulam. That's one shita of Rabbi Yosi ben Meshulam, and not like the accepted shita of Chachamim. The Sanya, we're talking about a bechar. The firstborn animal goes to the kohen. If you don't have a Beis Hamikdash, you can't shecht it. What do? You have to wait until it befalls a mum. What kind of mum? All sorts of mum. Now, what if its ear dries out? That's a mum, and then you can just eat it as is. You can't sell it on a. You can't put it. You can't weigh it. You have to treat it with kavod, but you can eat it. The sanya is yevesha. If the ear dries out, how do you know if it's dry? You take a needle, you take a nail, and you put it right through the ear. Interesting. That itself would cause a mum. Okay, you try to see if. Yeah, but I'm just thinking out loud here. So. Obviously, it's not a question. It's dry enough. I don't know if that you do it dry enough that if you put it through the ear, it's not gonna no blood. That's dry, and then you can eat it. So over here also by the lung, it should be the same thing. It should be a step before falling apart when you go with your nail like this. And who argues on Chachamim? Rabbi Yosi ben Meshulam says the Gemara, Afilu Temer Rabbanon. This could go like Shittas Rabbanan that it has to do with poking it and seeing if blood comes out, not falling apart with your nail. Where's an ear outside? It's affected by the wind, by the air, by the oxygen, so it can't heal. The lung is enclosed inside the animal, the cavity inside, and there's no air, there's no oxygen. Hadra barya, it could heal from a poke of a needle, but it won't heal if it could fall apart with a nail. Another halacha, Rabbi said these are small sugyas. You go from sugya to sugya. V'amar Rava, hayreya the kaima gilde. So we have three types of problems here. Here's gilde, scabs all over the lung. Ukme. Now, ukme is a little bit more difficult. Ukme means black, but later on we're going to see a black lung is treif. So what it means is like a little stain. It doesn't mean it's a black lung. It has a stain, so that's okay. Chazvasa, here it has different colors in it. Here, all three together. Ksheira, that kind of chazusa, chazvasa, depends who put the nakudas there. It's kosher. Omar Amemar. So it goes like this. If let's say there was a blister on the lung and it popped, the blister popped before the shechita, it's treif. If there was a blister after shechita and the shochet, the butcher, as he's removing the lungs, he pops it by mistake after it's kosher. What if you don't know when it popped? You don't know. So you know what you do? You take another blister from, welcome back, you take another blister from the same lung or another lung and you pop it after the shechita and then you compare colors. You say, oh, look, this is what it looks like. It has a whitish tint to it, so it means it popped after shechita. Says the Gemara, you can't do that. It's not a raya. You can't compare two different blisters. You would never figure that one out without Rashi. Makifin bebuye. Buye means like a blister. You can't bring one blister and bring it close to the other and say, oh, the colors are the same, therefore this happened after Shechita, this happened before. V'amar Rava hani tarti una desrichon lahadadi les lahu bedika. Rabbi say, this is today's sugi. Basically, we're going to discuss this, and this is the most common treifa today. Is something called a sircha. It means that something stuck, part of the lung stuck to some other part. How does a piece stick? Where's this glue coming from? The sircha. I'll show you a lot of little, we'll have a bunch of pictures to understand it very, very clearly. If a lung has a puncture, little hole in it, it's treif. What does the body naturally do? Some sort of liquid comes out of the lung and plugs it up. But that plug is not good. It's going to pop off and the hole remains. So if we're looking at the lung, if the lung is facing us, this is what it would look like. It has two major cavities. There's the right side and the left side. Very, very simple. It has the two giant balloons on the bottom. Those are called uma, like a mother, ima, with a mem. The ones on top, there's 2 and 3. Those are called una. Una is a different word completely. It's not a play on the word. Una means an ear. They look like little ears on top. Now, we're talking about that this lung is reversed. It's upside down. It's really because all these Gemaras are talking about that the animal is hanging. Like, after Shechita, when the guy is checking it, the animal is going to be hanging like this. Here's a vice fish checking an animal. So therefore, when we're talking about what side it is, it's upside down. It's like this, basically. Okay? Just roll with me for a second. When the Gemara says Yemin, it's really when the animal's upside down, head down, but it doesn't matter. On the right side, there's 3 ears. On the left side, there's 2. And if you open up the animal and you find on the right side there's 2 instead of 3, what would that be called? Chasar. It's missing an una. Bye-bye. If there's 3 on the left side, it's also treif, because there's too many. We're going to see. Actually, it's not, what I just said is false. There's 3 exactly over there. If there's 3 somewhere else, too much is also, it ruins it. Okay. Now, what could happen is that you have a sircha, you have a little bit of pus, let's call it pus, comes out and grabs another part of the lung, or grabs, let's say, the rib cage. That's what we had by our shechita. The lung was stuck a little bit to the rib cage with these little sirchas. Okay. So first, let me show you this video of Rav Weiss. She did a phenomenal job. Oh, it's in Hebrew. A little bit of a problem. Okay, let's try to do. I'll translate. I'll translate for Maki. This is a larger animal, a cow. This is the back part in the back. This is full of fats. That's the major artery from the heart, right over there. That's the opening to the artery. If you look at the front and it's hanging upside down, so now on the right side you have 3 unois. The head is down. One una, 2, and 3. Uma, that's a uma. Another uma, the large one. Another one underneath, 2 unas. So this is a total of 5. That's the Varda Diniyusa, this middle one. That just, some animals have it. Talk about it. If there's a little extra one, if it's down there, it's okay. If it's together with the other unas, it's kosher. But if it's somewhere else funny, then it's treif. If it's over there, it's treif. Or on the back. Okay, beautiful. Now a video that's on 1.65 speed. I guess If you are watching the shiur on 1.5 speed, which a lot of people do, slow down.
The two most common trephos that we look for in our animals are trephos of the lungs and trephos of the basicosis, and the reticulum, the second stomach.
There are a lot of things which mix animal traits. As a matter of fact, when we shecht animals, we get somewhere between 1/3 and 40% kosher, even though we buy the animals that are more likely to be kosher.
This is how we would check it.
They physically touch the entire thing. That's a sircha right there. Nekev, actual hole.
In Chazarah, the Simanim Lamed Hey to Lamed Tes talk all about the lungs, but the one that really focuses on the common trephos that we find in the lungs is Siman Lamed Tes. And that's we hear about sirchos. We hear about adhesions. All of this is all one big sircha. This is all one sircha that was connected to the diaphragm. There's a giant machlokes between the Ramah and the Beis Yosef, and they're diametrically opposed. The Beis Yosef holds that sirchos on the backs of the lungs that stick to the rib cage are in general not such a problem. The Ramah holds that they are a problem. The Ramah holds that sirchos on the front of the lungs may be removed. The Beis Yosef holds that they cannot be removed. The things that the Beis Yosef holds are kosher. The Ramah holds are 100% not kosher. When we talk about halak Beit Yosef in the United States, it's not only kosher for Sephardim. It means it's kosher even according to the Beis Yosef and certainly according to the Ramah. Somebody who would be traveling in a totally Sephardic community would have to be careful. Something that's totally Beit Yosef might actually be not kosher for somebody who follows the Ramah. Somebody who follows the Beis Yosef and goes to the Ashkenazi community would have to be careful to see that there isn't something that would be forbidden for him to eat. So when it says Beis Yosef in America, when you see something with Beis Yosef on it, is it kosher only for Sephardim or for Ashkenazim as well?
You can't assume that it's made for Ashkenazim also unless you inquire.
So Starkei Beis Yosef, for example.
The Starkei Beis Yosef is kosher for Sephardim and for Ashkenazim. Our basic rule is the rule of the Ramah. However, if the animal comes out to be kosher, even according to the Mechaber, we call it Beis Yosef.
Those sirchos can be removed according to a tradition called miyachu mishmash. If you peel carefully off sirchos, you could peel them off, and you could find the lung totally smooth underneath it, and you could inflate the lung and check that there was no hole. And this is what we do today.
Okay, fine. So that's a sircha. So says the Gemara like this. Now that we know what a sircha is, you have two unos, those two ears that are glued together. Lahadadi. Leis lehu b'dika. What's the problem? The problem is that there might be a hole in one of the unas, and now they're glued together, and it could pop off. That's if ear number 1 is glued to ear number 3, not in order. Aval kisidron. But if ear number 1 is glued to ear number 2, the one next to it, its neighbor, Hainerivisayu. That's how it grows. It's better for it. In other words, here, first of all, I'll show you this picture. This is a real picture of 1 and 3 touching each other. Right? 1 and 3. They skip over the middle guy and they're touching each other. Look how beautiful they did this. Here's a piece of sircha comes out from 1 to 3 and eventually could pop. That's the problem, because they're not neighbors. They're not neighbors. What happens when it pops? The hole is revealed. It's treif. But if you have a sircha from 1 and 2, like in this case, so the animal will keep on breathing. It's fine. It's not going to pop. And the una and the sircha stays, and the hole remains closed. Here's a real one, a sircha that's shaloi kesidron. Here you could see a sircha skipping over its friend. So because it's not natural, eventually it will tear. And that's a concern. Says the Gemara, another halach. You have 2 blisters. If there's 1 blister, it's kosher. 2 blisters, not kosher. When they're next to each other, you can't check whether or not even though if you hear noises coming out, there's no way to check it. What if it's chada u'mischazik etarti? It looks like 2, like so. So here's two blisters next to each other, but this one looks like it's 2 that looks like 1. So there's a way to see if it's 1 or 2. If it's 1, it's kosher. 2, it's not. Maisin and silva, you take a needle, you take a pin, ubazinullah, and you pop it. Ishavchan lahadadi. Here, take a look, you go something like this. If you're able to, you see that the liquids flow from one to the other, then it's 1, and memela, it is kosher. And if they don't flow from one to the other, tadininu, then it's 2 utreifa. As we saw, there are 5 unois, 5 ears that the lung has. Apa klapi gavra, when the animal's hanging, and we said that ear, Nachamal, the animal's hanging towards the boidik, vice fish. And you have 3 on the right and 2 on the left. Tlas miyamino, vetarti mismala, and 2 to the left. Chaser, if one is missing. O yatir. So interesting, Rashi says, what's the problem if there's one extra? He says, because it's kinnatul dam. We have to halakhically remove it, and once you remove it, you have a problem. O chalif. Or instead of 2 on the left, you have 3 on the left and 2 on the right. Treifa, that's a treifa because it's chaser, it's missing one. Says the Gemara, there was a lung that had an extra piece. Ravacha was hiding by the door. So as the lung comes out of the Rav, out of Meremar, Ravacha said, "No, what did the Rav say?" He said it's kosher. You got to go back. You got to go back. He missed it. He didn't see what's going on. So he goes back to Meremar and he says, "Could the Rav check again?" Says Meremar, "You think I don't know somebody's by the door? Somebody sends you back." Tell that guy that's sitting by the door. The halacha is not like Rava when it comes to an extra piece on the lung. Here's a picture of a real extra piece on the lung, right over here. It's extra una on a lung from Rav Weisfish. The pictures today. Oh, by the way, this is chaser una, missing a una, chalif, just 3 on that side. So that we're going to get to in a second. Says the Gemara, when is the halacha not like Rava that you could have an extra, like over here? You have an extra on this side. It's in the same row together with the other unais. But beina, if you have an extra una down there somewhere else, like Rav Weisfish showed us, beina treifa. So now we're going to talk about the extra one that we have even today. Today we have 6 unais. Why? There's one that was in between, so to speak. It was like in the middle of the lung. What is this? What's going on here? I've never seen this before. It wasn't shchiach. So Ravuna Mar Baravi says, there's a bunch of animals, 2 pshatim Rashi, let's call it the second pshat. The healthy, gesunte, fat ones like today, they feed them well, they give them injections, the whole thing. They're going to have this extra one. In fact, says Rashi, that in our days, this is normal. So once again, if you go back to the original picture I showed you, when we're talking about the lungs, here's in Uniso de Varda. Varda is a rose. That's the extra piece. The one in red is in Uniso de Varda. Says the Gemara Vahanamili Migavoy. Migavoy means in the inside. In the inside, in this context, means when it's facing the sheichet, when he's checking it. Avalagaba. But if it's on the back of the lung, towards the back of the animal, afilu ketarfa da asa treifa, it has a little bit of extra on the back. That's what Rav Weisfish showed us. On the back, then it's mamish treif, even if it's the size of a hadas leaf, a very small size. Omar Afram, hayreya the damya the ufta treifa. When you have a lung that's similar to wood, here's ufta. If you take a look, it looks like wood. So the question is, does it look like wood or does it feel like wood? So we have a shaila here. Hayreya, the damya the ufta treifa, lufta, it's similar to wood, treifa. Tafim zayin base, 3 lines from the top. Ikadamri b'chazusa, it looks like wood. Ikadamri b'gishta, no, it feels like wood. Ikadamri b'neficha, we're talking about it looks like wood. What does that mean? B'neficha, that you blow it up, it's bloated a little bit, and its color is off. It looks white. So look at this picture he sent me, Weisfish, if I can find it. I don't know why it's not in here where it's supposed to be. That's what I had last night, looking and searching through 60 pictures. Oh, here it is. Look at that. The difference between the 2 lungs. The top one, you can see there's a top one, it's pinkish. And this is a damaged white lung. This is a lung that never smoked in its life. It's an albino. Even Altzbacher didn't even take a vape. It's a damaged lung. Here's normal, and here's side to side. Okay, it has a little, I don't know what, liver and heart over there. I don't know what's going on over there. Okay. So the problem that it looks like wood means it's white, it's pale. Treif. We're talking about the two sheets. One says it looks like wood, the other one says it feels like wood. What does it mean, the fechiza? It's tough. It's solid like wood. You touch it and it feels woody. No. On the third sheet says, no, it's smooth. The less lochi tuche de une. It looks something like this. Take a look. You can't. It doesn't have the different compartments. It's just like one glob of lung. That's the problem. You can't see the unas in it. Now we're talking about colors. Kikuchla kshera. It's bluish. Like this is eyeliner that women use. The famous. It has a little box. They put. So it's a blue color. Blue kshera is kosher. Kedyaisa. That's why I said before when we said ukme, here kedyaisa means like ink. Dry ink is black. Black lung treif. Blue lung kosher. We're talking about nida. It used to be red blood that turned black. Elo shalaka. This is very important. This word right over here. Elo shalaka. When it comes to blood, we say the blood. How do you say laka in English? Damage. Damage is a good word. Yeah, okay, we'll call it damaged. So by the lung also, when you have a black lung, that's a damaged lung. What does damage mean? Strafe. Black is a sign of damage. You have red blood that turns black, that's damaged blood. So you have a damaged lung. Damaged lung is strafe. Yeruka ksherim midirib nasan. Bezer Shem. You can feel it in the air, starting the talk, the excitement about the Sima Shas. So like maybe probably Daf Beis talks about Yarek Ekarti. What does Yarek mean? Yarek throughout Shas usually means yellow. But in Hebrew, Yarok means green. Today it means green. We're talking about green. We're going to talk about yellow later on. So it can't mean yellow. It means green. Green like green grass, green leaves. Green. Yeruka, when it's green, Ksherim in the Rebbe Nassan. I could prove it from a story that happened with Rebbe Nassan. Aduma, and when it's reddish, Ksherim in the Rebbe Nassan. Also from a very similar story, almost identical story. And that's what's good. We have a bunch of freebie today. We have the two stories that are identical, and we have the same sugi that we had yesterday with the bicycle wheel that you blow up and water and bubbles come out. Word for word, 10 lines freebie. So, Desanya, what's the story? I once happened to be overseas. A woman comes to me, very tragic story. She did a bris milah on her son, and he died, her first son. It happened this week, just a few days ago. A kid, an hour after his bris milah, died in the hospital. Very sad story. In Hadassah, yeah? The investigating the whole thing, but kids die after bris. Shani, v'meis. We had the sugya that if two brothers die, you don't do bris milah on the third. She comes to the Rav. She says, Reb Nosson, tell me what to do over here. Shlishi eve'atu lefanai. Risav shayad. I saw that it was red. To me, this indicated that it's not a problem. The red means that the blood is stuck, came up too much between the skin and then the flesh, and just wait a little bit. It'll recede. It'll go down. Ememela what? Same halacha by a lung. You could take that idea and say, look, if the lung is red, a little bit of a problem. Wait a little bit. I'll go back down to where it came from. Omarti lo biti, my daughter. Hamtini loy ad shibala boidamoy. Wait until it absorbs the blood. Himtina loy. She waited. Umaloy sevchay. In fact, the kid lived. Nasan abavli al shmi. His name, they called him Nasan abavli. With the kinoi habavli. Nasan the Chicago. Another mice, same exact story. Different place. A woman came to me. She said her first son died. Did I tell you that mamish happened a few days ago in the Hadassah hospital? A bit. Shayni v'meis. Second one died. So then she comes with the third kid. Now this kid is green. That's weird. And I realized that the pshat is he just doesn't have enough blood in the system. It's tatzi, but in fact, there's another problem. Two problems. He's green. You don't do a bris to a green kid. But even if they did a bris, there'd be no blood to come out. There would be no hatafas dam, which would be very problematic for the actual bris. Amarti lo, biti, my daughter. Hamtini lo, wait until the before is like let it get absorbed into the body. No, over here we just need a little bit more blood. She waited, and then she did the bris milah, v'chaya, and this kid lived. V'hayu karnoisoi nosana bavli al shmi. Omer Rav Kahana kekavduk sheira. What if the lung looks such a color? This is like for illustrative purposes only, but if it looks a little bit like a liver, the color of a liver, sheira, it's okay. We're talking about the lung, right? The lung looks like liver. Kibisra, but if it's red like meat, treifa. No good. Bisi manach. Ubasa basada treifa. It's a play with words over here. Obviously, we're talking about a treif in this pasuk. But if the basar, if the lung looks like basar, treifa, it is treif. Omar Rav Sam Rei the Rava. Rav Sam said, the son of Rava says, Hi Reo the Damio Kichshusa. So now we're looking at yellow colors. If you look closely, there's yellow here on the top. If it looks like hops, and I don't know why I have the picture of hops, they're not so yellow. Kichshusa, hops, ukimarika, these are all yellow. This one we could relate to. This is the yellow of the egg. So we're talking about a yellow lung treifa. Hello, asked the Gemara, Yeruka the Kshera, this green that you said is kosher, Kikarti, that's like leek. Green like leek, that's kosher. If you have a clogged lung, so we have a beautiful video here. I don't know how you do this without the video. Check this out. If you blow up the whole lung and a little part of the balloon doesn't blow up, you have a problem. That's autumn. Everything's blowing up and that piece that he's holding is not blowing up. What do? Gishmak. You take a knife and you tear it. If you see inside there's a bunch of pus, so certainly it came from the pus, that's why it's not blowing up, but the actual lung is in good condition, and it's kosher. And if it doesn't, if there's no pus, this is the trick we saw yesterday Mark Ashkenazi doing. You take a feather, if it moves around the roik, if the spittle bubbles, then it's kosher. That means it's intact, the lung. Viloi treifa, and it doesn't have bubbles, it's treifa. Omer Rabbi Yosef, krum sholam machmas maka. If you have a scab that came from a wound, bereya on the lung, einoi krum. This is a treif lung. Why? Because the scab is going to fall off, the hole will remain, and then it's proud. Omer Rabbi Yosef. So this is the sugi we had yesterday, word for word. Hareya da'avsha. If you have a lung that's hissing, it's making a sound. If you know where the sound is coming from, you take some spittle, you put it on it. If it bubbles, then it's treif. Now, why would it be kosher if it's hissing? Obviously, there's a hole somewhere. If you don't know where the hole is, what do? You put it into a vat of warm water, and you put it inside. You don't put it in hot water, you don't put it in hot water because it shrivels up. You don't put it in the cold water, because it hardens, and if it hardens, it could fracture, it could break. You put it into, I got to do this again because this was so geschmack when Mark Ashkenazi brings me the water. Crazy. All the nuances. But if you want to see how it's done for real, this is mamish, the real deal. It's crazy. Also, unbelievable. Here you see the bubbles. You see those pipes on the bottom? That's air. Fill it up. Hose. Like an entire place. Fill it up. Then you take the part that's hissing. Look at those bubbles. Unbelievable. Treif. You put it in warm water. If it bubbles up, like we just saw in the video, it's treif. But the problem is, how can it be kosher if it's hissing? Where's this hissing coming from? Obviously, there's a hole somewhere. It says Gemara Tatayinkiv, Eloi Loyinkiv. There's 2 layers of the, what is it called? How do you say krum? Membrane. And the bottom one has a hole in it, so it's hissing, but the ear is trapped between the bottom one and the upper one, and therefore it's not a treifa lung. Eloi Loyinkiv. The upper membrane doesn't have a hole in it. The reason why you hear a hissing sound, Zika de Beinu, it's the ear that's escaping from the lower one but being trapped by the upper one. We have an incredible video of Nishpach Yikita. If you blink, you're going to miss it. Here you have a lung, and he sees that something's wrong with this lung. Look what happens. It pours out like a bottle. Crazy. Now, is that kosher or not? Believe it or not, that's kosher. Kshera. Why? Alma Chazarah, because obviously he holds Chazarah mefnim lishmei Chazarah. And since the problem with this lung is from the inside, that's not considered a problem. If you have a lung that has a hole in it, it says in our Mishnah, a hole, or shechasra, it's missing. Now the problem is, isn't every hole something that's missing? So why the double lashon? It has a hole and it's missing. What's the obvious answer? I think I explained it. You have a hole that's not missing. I can take a screwdriver, push it through the lung. It's going to have a hole, but nothing's missing from the lung. The whole flesh is there. And then you have a drill, made a hole with the drill, that's going to be missing. The parts are going to be gone. So, the Gemara wants to prove from this, my chasra, if it's missing from the outside, isn't that the same thing as a hole? So you must say that chasar means from the inside, and then you see that if you have a chasar in the inside of the lung, that is a problem. Not like you just said that if it spills out water like a ketone, that's kosher because it's in the inside. It is a problem when the chasar is inside. No, what it means is that the chisaron is in the outside. You asked me a question. You proved it to me because then it's identical to the problem called nikva. Basis and poinus are those, the bronchi, I think they're called. So he says you need the hole has to be all the way down till the sympoinus. We have a great video of that. Here we go. Check this out. Here's a hole, and it has to be all the way until the bronchi. This is all, by the way, all created by our artists. Unbelievable stuff that they do. This is a hole that doesn't have a chisaron. Check this out. The one on the right you can see is literally missing meat. The one on the left is not missing anything. It has a tremendous hole, but it's not missing. The one on the left, we're talking about the one on the left. Why do you have to have a needle or whatever it is that goes all the way to the bronchi? Because it's not missing meat, so you have to go deep. But a hole that's missing meat, you don't have to go all the way to the bronchi. It's even a surface wound would also be a problem. Let's just do this because we have a long daf tomorrow as well. Rabbi Chananya Cholash. Rabbi Chananya was sick and dying. All the Gdolim we had Reb Nosson in this daf with the bris milah, two stories. This is the third time. They weren't stam shmuzi knew how's the chemo going, how's the this. How's this lung? This lung, it poured out like water, and he says, "Oh, v'achshiro, it's kosher." You have to make sure that the bronchi are intact. If the lung looks, I'm not going to show you the picture now. I have it here somewhere, but B'kitzur, here's an empty lung. You have everything, but it's all empty. So how are you going to know if the symphonis are kaim? So what you do is, how do you know if the bronchi are intact? You take a piece of like a bowl of earthenware that's glazed, and you pour it out into that bowl. Take a look at this. Here we go. Something like this. You take a bowl and you pour it out into the bowl. So because the bowl is glazed and everything, so you can see very well, you can see what's going on. And if it has these little white strands in there, you know that there's bronchi in there. That means that it doesn't have bronchi. Viloi, if it doesn't have any of these, what do you call them? Streaks. If it doesn't have streaks or strands, kosher, ksheir. Why? Because the bronchi are intact. Rabbi Sai, have a wonderful day.
Merit the schus of spreading Torah throughout the world. Sponsor a shir today. MDYsponsor.com or sponsor at MDYDOT.com.